you think it comes from?
I know where it comes from. It comes from the accusations. Very simple. People do not want to face the facts of what economic nationalism is. It's not about your race, your ethnicity, your religion, your color, your gender, or your sexual preference. It comes from being an American citizen. Donald Trump's program and this populist program is about putting American citizens first and American workers first.
And you call yourself an economic nationalist.
I'm an economic nationalist. Donald Trump's the guy on one level, he's a nationalist.
What,
economic nationalism means we're going to put the countries, like in the thing with China or in NAFTA, the country's interests are going to come first, and the workers' interests are going to come first in that. That's why the new NAFTA deal is in more of the workers' interests. It's to block China. Trump has been involved in this thing. People call it a trade war. It's not a trade war. It's much more. It's deeper than that. Trump has now engaged China in the economic war they've run against us for 25 years. Okay, and tariffs are just not taxes on goods. Tariffs are about dignity and self-worth of the American worker. You go to J.D. Vance, the guy's a great sociologist that wrote Hillbilly Elegies of the Trump movement. He cites the studies from MIT and Harvard that show there's a direct correlation between the factories that left for China, the jobs that left with them, and the opioid crisis. This is about dignity and self-worth. That's the basis of the populist movement. It's the basis of the economic nationalist movement.
You worked to help get the president elected.
Yes, most certainly.
You worked in the White House for a year. You left. A book comes out. A bunch of things are attributed to you, and the president disavows you.
Yeah.
Sloppy Steve on Twitter.
How can you say possibly? How do you say possibly sloppy Steve? Look, I come from. Okay, look, I come from. I come from an Irish. I come from. Yes, come on.
Okay,
I've been on because Trump is a leader. Trump is the leader of this movement. I've been working on this populist economic nationalism for 9 years before I met Donald Trump. Look what Donald Trump's done in 2 years. I come from an Irish Catholic family with a couple of brothers. I get called a lot worse than sloppy Steve. And by the way, the fighting that's been on the internal of the Republican Party, and I'm the anti-establishment guy, Mitch McConnell and Steve Bannon have been saying great things about each other the last couple of weeks after Kavanaugh. Here's why. Trump is showing his leadership. As he closes on November 6th, it's exactly like we closed in 2016. Maniacally focused on the goal and just a jackhammer all the way to the end.
How would you describe your relationship with the president?
I think it's fantastic. He called himself a nationalist the other day. How could it be better? President Trump is hitting on every aspect you can possibly have, right? Everything that he promised on economic nationalism, everything he promised on American national security, he's implementing. As you can tell, the first year of his White House, he was getting his sea legs. He said the other day, we had globalists in the White House, you had nationalists in the White House. Now he's got a team around him of Larry Kudlow and John Bolton and Mike Pompeo that you're seeing Trump just go down the path and knock down these accomplishments.
Do you still have a personal relationship with the president?
I'm not so sure I had a personal relationship with him before. This is the problem with the media. This is the problem with the media. When I came in, I knew Trump, somewhat. I was able to take the CEO of the campaign. I worked in the White House as a staffer. It's not like we're buddies, right? And I'm not looking for a friend, and he's not looking for a friend. I'm a populist, and he's president of the United States. He is hitting on every possible goal that we ever set out. And that's why, by the way, I took the last 9 months of my life, made this film. I'm going around the country in districts just like here in Western New York, and I'm saying, if you're a Trump supporter, if you're a Trump voter, this is a midterm election that's a presidential reelect, and you've got to show up to vote.
You advise the president on immigration policies, among other things.
Yes.
So what would you advise as this caravan creeps closer to the border?
What happened a couple of months ago, his humanitarian policy. Look, this caravan is a tragedy of biblical proportions. Okay, nobody's sitting there saying that this is a great thing, not a great thing. All these people run around, this person financed it, that person financed it. You have to look at the human suffering that's going on. Now here's the reality. That has to be taken care of in the northern triangle of those nations in Central America. I have been that's why I kept arguing to get out of Afghanistan. Well, hang on for a second. That's why I argued about getting out of Afghanistan and redirecting that type of capital down there. I think you're going to see more American leadership with Mexico and other nations to sort the problem out there. The working class people in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona cannot solve the problems of Central America in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. And that's why Trump said months ago, zero tolerance. Okay, if you're a political asylum, you still come through a process, but for economic migrants, we just can't take them. You have to have sovereignty, and that's why he's argued for a southern border wall.
He's talked about the military at the border. Would that be a wise move?
I think what would be a wise move is to put a southern, I think it's finally to construct the wall that President Trump's talking about. And I think go back to a zero tolerance policy. If you're political asylum, of which I think you ought to register in Mexico and try to go, then you come to the United States and you be processed. Otherwise it shouldn't go.
What would you advise? They're going to get to that border.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. That's a supposition. I think it's a long way to go. You don't know what the new president of Mexico is going to do. You don't know what the Mexican authorities will do. I think that's jumping way ahead. It's way too speculative. I think what to do now is what President Trump's saying. There's no possibility that you're going to come into the country, right? That if you're eligible for political asylum, there's a way to process yourself in Mexico and then come into the United States and try to be processed. But I think President Trump has said, I'm going back to my zero tolerance policy, and I think that's what the American people want. American people want their sovereignty, and the citizens want their sovereignty, okay? And by the way, we're the most giving people in the world. The solution, these countries in Central America are clearly teetering on being failed states. And I think that's why President Trump is saying, hey, why are we involved in Afghanistan when we have Mexico and areas of Central America that are in such bad shape?
Kavanaugh situation, it's all shaken down. Does it help the GOP or hurt them in the midterms?
I don't think. Look, I think the one thing. Let's leave Dr. Ford and all the accusations aside, because that's for another. I think what happened is that when we nationalized this election and got people to start thinking, the Trump voters start thinking, this is not a midterm. This is really his first reelect. That you've got to come out and vote. Okay, that was step one.
Does it help his first reelect or hurt?
Yeah, but I think Kavanaugh did two things, and let me bifurcate that. I think the hearings themselves showed the Trump voter and Trump supporter what the future will be like if we lose the House of Representatives. It was a show trial, like the Moscow show trials in the 1930s. You saw the Democrats. And so I think people said, hey, if that's what you want, then don't show up to vote November 6th. The second part of that, I think, was the comportment and the behavior of people on the vote itself, the gallery, and then afterwards in the plaza at the Capitol and at the Supreme Court where there was a mob. And I think that reinforced to people, hey, I don't want that. I like the order that Trump is going on, and I'd rather support that. I think Kavanaugh was an accelerant. Listen, you've seen the generic ballots collapse. You've seen these races tighten up. All this is because of Trump's leadership and the kind of this purpose of bringing the McConnells and the Bannon wings together, okay? Also the fact that I think now people realize the stakes are high, that this is his first reelect. And so net, I think was a big benefit.
All right, you've been most gracious with your time, and a lot of people want to see you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.